Hello, and welcome to Conversations with Cully and Conlon. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. I'd like to thank our sponsors at Procyon Partners. They are one of the top 50 fastest growing companies in the nation. They specialize in employee benefits, wealth management, and retirement planning. They are a proud supporter of our podcast network, Sean Rabinowitz. He is phenomenal, and I got to see his son play flag football this weekend, and it's just great to see him healthy and doing well, and very happy for Sean and his family. Green Street Trust International, owned and operated by Rennell Jump. They specialize in tax plans for businesses large and small. They will save you money or get you a big fat return. To schedule your free strategic tax planning session today, go to www.greenstreettrust.com. Dynamic Human Performance is owned and operated by UConn legendary running back Andre Dixon. Trains boys and girls of all ages, all sports. He has a boot camp program 7 days a week at 6 a.m. You want to get in shape, you go to Andre. He has an athletic development program where he works with boys and girls in the sport of their choice, trains them from the ground up, helps them to be the best they can be, reach their full potential. Andre has sent boys and girls on scholarship to college for all different types of sports to work with the best. He's got a 5,000 square foot facility in Hartford. www.dynamichumanperformance.com. Pete Finch and the Finch Law Firm is located in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Pete is the guy to call if you have suffered any type of personal injury, a slip and fall, a construction beam fell on you at a site, your mother-in-law ran you over with her car, your wife got angry one night and decided to stab you, you got in a car accident. The Finch firm is for you. Pete has won legal battles all over the state of Connecticut, and he will go to war for you to get every dollar in compensation that you deserve. You just have to remember, if you're in a pinch, call Finch. Down south, we have Julius Williams and the Trench Mob. Julius trains offensive and defensive linemen. They compete in 5v5 tournaments all across the country, and this past year they were undefeated. They also go to college showcase camps. Proud to say every camp they attended, a member of the Trench Mob was offered a full scholarship. Julius has sent kids to schools like Florida, Florida State, Miami, Tennessee, Georgia, Clemson, and Alabama, just to name a few. We have the Trench Mob podcast, the Trench Mob show, which is Wednesday nights. That's tonight at 8:30 p.m. And proud to say we've had our highest viewership the past few weeks. And two kids were offered scholarships after the show. So if you want to be on it, that's the place to be. Just message Julius. And you can go to their website to sign up, www.battleofthetrenches.com. And our new sponsor, James Whitfield of Luther James Insurance. For the last 3 years, James has dedicated himself to the art of financial planning. He also specializes in insurance policies, especially life insurance. He will make you a ton of money, and he will make you a ton of money tax-free. He does also specialize in retirement planning because he knows the stress that goes into retirement. How much am I going to need? For how long? Do I have enough to last? How many years am I really going to live? James is there for you. Just go to his website, lutherjamesinsurance.com, and you can get a free quote for him. And now for the lady of the hour, who had an astounding watch group of 22,000 people last week. Just on YouTube alone, Maria Conlon, UConn legend and current Western Connecticut State University head coach.
How you doing?
Great. I am great. You are on fire. You had your viewership just blew up. I don't know. Maybe he was talking about the lockout or what, or the WNBA stuff, and people like your takes, but we've never had that just on YouTube alone.
Nice. It's great.
Yeah. 22,000 people tuned in to see you. So you're pretty popular.
Well, hopefully we can keep the good content going. I'm sure I got peppered with questions, so fire away at me.
You did get peppered with a lot of questions, yes, but I'll get to those later. I wanted to ask you just your thoughts. I mean, you kind of predicted this would happen, but the WNBA finals, it's 0-2 right now, and you kind of said it was going to go this way. What are your thoughts? I mean, do you think that it's pretty much over? Do you think that Phoenix is, I mean, can they do anything to come back, or do you think they're cooked?
I just think that, at this time of year, experience wins games. And I think you have an Aces team they've been hot for a while now. They've been hot since All-Star break. They're healthy. They're playing really good basketball. They have, in my opinion, the best coach in the league. So, I think they have everything going for them. I still think that Phoenix can steal one or two, but, I don't think they're going to win the next 5. So, I think even if they steal one or two, I still think Las Vegas is going to be crowned the WNBA champion for this year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, you had predicted either the Aces or Minnesota all along, and it's kind of a shame that we didn't get Minnesota, because that would have been a good series to watch. Yep. This has not been as great as we had hoped. I'm sure the league as well. My other question, so Napheesa Collier is supposed to meet with Cathy Engelbert, the commissioner of the WNBA. And the meeting, unfortunately, gets canceled. She canceled the meeting after, Cathy kind of went on the offensive, I would say, in her press conference, refuting some of the comments that Napheesa said that she made to her when they had that private meeting. Now, I mean, obviously, airing a private meeting isn't the best thing to do. I can understand completely why she did. It's complete frustration with the officiating, which has been, like we talked about, a huge concern throughout the entire season. But, the other stuff that she denied saying really upset Collier. And Collier has said that because of the inaccuracies, it's pushed their relationship beyond repair, a couple sources have said. Do you think that this relationship is beyond repair? And then I'll ask the other question after. But, yeah, do you think they can repair this and get in a room and hug it out, or not really?
I mean, I think that the moral of this story is that it's not just about the referees. I think it's
correct.
I think the players feel, and I think Fish speaks for a lot of the players, that the leadership in the WNBA has not been stellar, and it's a call for these people to change or to make changes in the leadership roles. It doesn't sound like, based off of what she said, it doesn't sound like Cathy has a great relationship with the players anyway. So
it does sound like she's distant. It sounds like she's kind of distant from them.
Yeah. So, in terms of repairing any relationship that's there, what's the need at this point? I do agree. It's never great when you're airing private conversations, but I think that it's just gotten to the point, with the potential lockout and a bunch of other things where she kind of backed the players into a corner. And I think Fish just felt like she has enough respect. I think that, she's carried her way and done a lot of great things for the WNBA. So I feel like she was a good person to step forward and make some of the comments that she made. And I think they're valid. I think, I think changes have to be made, whether that's replacing leadership as a whole or getting leadership to understand that the league exists because of the players, not the other way around.
Exactly.
There's no other league out there where you hear people in leadership roles make the supposed comments that Cathy did. So, saying, oh, they should just be happy that
Yeah, Roger
they have all these
Goodell.
other endorsements or that they're making all this other money. Like, I would love for someone in the NBA to tell LeBron James, you're just lucky that you have all this other stuff going on. It's the only league where, people feel like they can make comments like that. It's like, Cathy, if some of these players said, you know what, we're just not going to play, then the league wouldn't exist. And I think that's a real valid point. And she spoke to it. I thought she articulated it well. She used some references, but if I had to make a guess, it's not the first time that Feesh has asked for change. And obviously it fell on deaf ears. So she felt like she needed to take it a little bit more publicly.
No, I love that she got a ton of support from the players. I mean, all the players stood behind her, and Cheryl Reeve, the coach, stood behind her. And I think it's really serious because she suffered a devastating injury because of this. I mean, I know it was a collision and it wasn't necessarily intentional or anything, but the contact has been something that's been allowed all year long. And I think her having a major injury obviously could have cost them getting into the finals and having a shot at the championship. I think that was part of it. But like you said, like Adam Silver is not going to come out and say LeBron James should kiss the ground that he walks on because he makes $30 million in endorsements. It's like, no, it's like the players earn this, and the split that they get is mind blowing to me. Like, I never knew that they only get 9% of the split. And I understand that it was because of, the profitability of the league. Well, the profitability of the league has changed. So are the owners saying that we deserve to keep it this way, the salary structure low, so we make some of our money back? Or, I mean, like you said, the players don't need this league. The players can walk and play elsewhere and make more money. So that is kind of my question is, do you think that they'll be able to negotiate a fair split where the players will be, because they're so far apart right now. Do you think it's negotiable, or do you think that it's gonna be a long haul before they get an agreement?
Well, I think if you read in between the lines a little bit, right? Like, the injury that she suffered, I don't think that had anything to do with the refs, right? So I think
it was a collision.
You got to look at both things independently, and both things can be true. The game could be way too physical up to that point, and someone can also make a play on the ball that's clean, and you just happen to get injured, right? You can roll an ankle in warm-ups. So I think that those two things are independent. But I do think that the underlying issue is actually very similar across all different things. And what I mean by that is if everybody's been complaining about the refs all year and nothing's been done, then you're not listening, right?
Exactly.
You're not respecting what we say. If we're telling you that we want a bigger split of the pie, and you're not willing to come to the table with an anywhere near close to fair proposal, then you're not listening, right? So I think that the common thread that I see is that the leadership in the WNBA is profiting and creating a great lifestyle for themselves at the mercy of all these players, right? Without the repercussions of, if you don't have a product, you don't have a job, right?
Exactly.
You don't come to a good agreement. You don't have a league. And I think that the players are just kind of sick of saying a bunch of stuff and nothing really happening. So I think that's like the common thing that I see is like it just doesn't seem like the leadership is willing to take the players' needs and wants seriously. So I think I don't think that they're going to come to an agreement, at least based off of everything I've seen and read.
Yeah, I don't either. Not by October.
It does not sound like it's going this way. And I think that, the comments by Collier have just kind of magnified it a little bit, but I think it was always there. And I think it's just, it's really hard to work for a leadership team or a company that doesn't believe in your own value or worth, right? It's almost like, you're elephants in a circus, right? So you're there and you're bringing in all the tickets and people are coming to watch you jump around on a trampoline or whatever the heck they call those things, right? And you're risking a lot every time you step out there. And the person who is in charge of the circus is reaping the benefits, but not listening to the fact that they're overworked and underpaid, right? So I think it's just, how can we get to a point of finding mutual conversations about value and about the future? And I think that's what disappoints me the most is that, we've taken such great strides in women's sports as a whole, and definitely in women's basketball has kind of spearheaded that.
Yes.
But what's disappointing is that you still have people that are running these organizations, that are running these leagues, that don't really see the value there.
They don't.
It's like we've gotten the fans and we've gotten the basketball world to see the value in what they do and in the league in general. But none of that means nothing or anything really if the people that are actually in charge of the league and leading it don't see the value themselves,
So Blake Quick has a question. I like Napheesa Collier. She's a great player. Do you think there is a conflict of interest having her be VP when she is in charge of the Unrivaled League with her husband? Her husband's part of it.
Yeah, I think he's like the president. He runs
it.
Oh,
okay. Yeah,
that's
he thinks like it's a conflict of interest and they could be deliberately trying to sabotage negotiation.
So I don't think that's accurate, right? I don't think that she's trying to, because listen, at the end of the day, the WNBA helps the Unrivaled League.
Right? And all the players feel the same way. It's not like
it helps Unrivaled because you're exposing people to the players in the sport in a completely different season.
Correct.
Unrivaled is not in competition with the WNBA because they're played at different times. Unrivaled is in competition with college sports, which
correct.
You're never gonna beat that out, right? That's just my belief. It's just like the NBA. I mean, the NBA's ratings have gone down, and they go down dramatically when college basketball season is taking place because people would rather watch college basketball than watch the NBA. So I don't think there's a conflict of interest from that regard in terms of like sabotage. I think that when you look at organizations as a whole, it would be like somebody being, the president, the owner of Yahoo, but the VP of Google.
Right. Yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah.
So I think that's a valid question to ask: is should she be the VP? Or be where she is on the WNBA side when she does have a conflicting or similar business interest elsewhere.
Yeah. Right.
But I don't think, and that's something that they have to explore and that she has to be able to say. Now, I know her a little bit from a personal level, just from being an alum at UConn.
Sure.
I do think she has the wherewithal to do both, right? But it's easy for me to say that, and it's easy for her to say that. Being in it on a day-to-day basis and being able to separate the two is a lot harder than said, right?
Yeah.
She did get up there and she did use examples of her husband as the president reaching out to players and doing these different things and et cetera, et cetera. You gotta imagine that, all right, your wife is a player. you've seen years of stuff that you don't like in what's happening now. It's
Right.
kind of like playing Monday morning quarterback, where it's like, well, hey, I know the players hate that this person doesn't do XYZ. Let me do XYZ, and it's going to look better.
Right.
So, I think you can look at it a bunch of different ways, but I don't think it was sabotage. Is it a little bit of a conflict of interest? I don't think that personally, but I could see the argument for how it could be, because it's still the same sport, even though it's not the same rules and regulations. It still is the same sport. It's a lot of the same players, right? I mean, everybody that's in Unrivaled plays in the WNBA.
Correct. Yes.
So if Unrivaled grows and, you got a player that ends up making, $500,000 to play Unrivaled, it is a respectable concern to be able to say, well, what's to keep that kid from saying, you know what, I'm going to take the summer off from the WNBA?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's amazing.
I think there's a couple different polarizing conversations there that you can have. And I think that she's got to be really careful with her communication in regards to that, because I do think that it can be taken a little bit out of context and look to be more of a conflict of interest than it is.
And I'm sure the players probably had to sign off on that, because I know if like an attorney represents someone where there could be a possible conflict, they have to get the permission, or they have to get the other client to sign off on it before they do it. I'm sure they did something like that. But Eric wants to know about the pay structure in the WNBA, the players being paid correctly. Do you know how, if the pay structure has been the same in the league for the last several years because of the CBA?
Yeah. So your first 3 years in the league, you're kind of capped at what your income
Correct.
can
Right.
be. And then after that,
you don't hit free agency till after your fourth year, which I think is a lot.
Yeah. So, after that third year, though, you can negotiate, what you're worth, what your contract is. And it's been like that for quite some time now. I mean, the pay in general is a little bit higher than it was 15, 20 years ago, right? Inflation and all these other different things that come into play. So I think that the highest paid player is definitely making more money now than they were 15 years ago.
But it's
all relative, right?
Yeah,
Is it enough? Probably not.
No.
I don't know. I've said this a million times. I don't know what that number is yet, because, until you've been in the green for a certain amount of years and you have more predictable revenue streams coming from different areas, I think that's a really hard sell to make. But
yeah.
I do think it's kind of crazy that, you can get you could be the first round draft pick, you can become rookie of the year, make an all-star team, and you still got to wait till year 4 to be like paid
compensated
decent money, right? And even then it's not enough. But the pay structure is funky. I mean,
I saw it. It really is.
People, like, if you look at Paige, right, or Caitlin, they're both great examples.
That's what they're saying.
You got these kids that are the face of the franchise that are making way less than the kid that doesn't see the court. So, which you don't really see that in any other sport. So I think it's a hard pill to swallow. I think they got to make changes. Doesn't mean that, every first round draft pick should be making, $250,000 right off the bat, because we've seen some of that stuff flop. But I feel like after your first year, it should be something that you can negotiate.
It should be at least incentive induced based on performance.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'm sure Paige got extra money for getting rookie of the year and making different things. Like all that stuff is still happening. If we're just talking about like salary contract for the season, it's pretty dismal, especially with NIL and everything else. I mean, these kids are coming out of college making millions a year, and now they gotta grind it out on the court for less than 6 figures. It's kind of wacky.
So you had a comment from Dark Maga about Angel Reese. Angel is an okay player, and the only reason she is a big name is because of the LSU Iowa game. If that game never happened, most people wouldn't know who Angel is. Angel isn't a bad player, but she's not a top tier player. She gets good stats because of her bounds to herself, and her shot to scoring percentage isn't good. What do you think of Angel Reese?
I mean, I don't disagree with any of those comments. I mean, listen, Angel Reese still has a national championship in college, right?
She does.
Something Caitlin Clark never got. So I think from, that standpoint, the way that I look at Angel Reese, because listen, if I was running a team, would I be drafting her for my team? No, I think that there's not enough upside on all the other stuff that she brings. But what she does bring is she is very popular in certain pockets of the market.
People pay to see her.
The rivalry that she has with different players definitely drives ticket sales. So I think she's a necessity. Do I think, she's an all-star and that she's going to be one of the best players to ever play in the WNBA? Hell no. No way.
No.
Right? So I think that, it was what, Dark MAGA? So what is that? Is that just like a black MAGA hat?
Yeah, I
never heard that. I kind of like that.
That was his name. That's what he sounded it as.
Yeah. I don't think that anything that he said is wrong. In terms of the way that she plays the game. Like, she, in my opinion, is not fun to watch. It's, she reminds me of that guy on pickup that you want on your team because he's gonna body everybody and set decent picks and get some rebounds, but
do the dirty work. Yeah.
When it comes down to crunch time, you don't want that guy taking a shot. Yeah. So I think both things can be true. She can be a mediocre overall basketball player, but she's still good enough to be doing what she's doing. And she can also be not your favorite player to watch because of the way she plays the game. I think both things can be true.
So Mike had a comment about the WNBA salary for you. He said, Maria, the WNBA salary structure is reflective of a league that has never turned a profit. Until that changes and profit becomes repeatable, the salaries should and will stagnate. That is what he said about the salary structure.
Is there a question in there?
Do you agree with that the salary structure should stay the way it is until they show profit for a several year period?
I mean, historically in every other sport, it hasn't been that way, right? So if we look at other sports, owners and leagues paid players probably more than what they should have based off of the revenue that was coming in. But for whatever reason in the WNBA, we don't. So I think there's that piece to it. I think it's not a matter of when we say pay structure, what are we talking about? Are we talking about caps, team caps, right? Are we talking about, the 3 years of
the rookies,
rookie only being able to get paid the minimum before they can negotiate higher? So I think there are parts of the compensation structure that should change because I just don't think that that's right. Because again, you could have a 14-year veteran who doesn't play, but who's just good to have on the team that's making, $250,000 versus a Paige Beckers who's, playing 40 minutes a night, killing herself. Who's making $60,000. I think that has to change, and be negotiated differently. I do agree. I've always said, I think it's really hard for these players to but here's the thing. They're not even asking to be paid the same as the men. Right?
No, so not even close. No.
I think that's where people get confused with pay structure and being in the green and revenue, etc. Is that money's being made right? It's just a matter of which bucket are we moving all that different money to. So I think that the real question is being paid equitably for what you're producing revenue wise. Now, what I mean by that is if the league nets 3 million, and I'm just using a random number here, but if they net 3 million, why should the players get 9% of that?
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's more of a percentage thing when we talk about the equity there, because, I don't think that the players that are actually producing the results should be getting the smallest percentage of the revenue. Should they be making $1 million a year right now? No, the league wouldn't be sustainable if we did that, right? So I think if his statement is that the salaries can't be dramatically increased, I agree. If his statement is they can't get a bigger piece of the pie, I disagree, because somebody's getting a piece of that pie. So
yeah, they are.
Why shouldn't the players get more of that?
He did kind of agree with you. He said, yes, revenue is continuing to go up, but until it exceeds expenses and leads to long-term profitability, the pay structure should not change. Because if the response to the growing revenue is to immediately and drastically increase expenses and pay structure, then the league will continue to struggle financially. And I kind of see what he's saying there. If they do bump it too much, then yeah, they could struggle financially. They do have to be vigilant with, I guess, how they put it together, right?
Yeah, they have to make it worth these players' while. I mean, I think that's the bottom line. And I've said this a million times. I don't know what that percentage is. I don't know what that number is, right? Because I don't see all the back end of what's coming in and versus what's going out. We have to remember too is that
the players haven't seen it either. The players have asked for it.
In companies and organizations, historically overspend in areas that they shouldn't, right? So, you could have 5 or 6 different franchises that are really profitable, right? And you could have 5 or 6 that aren't. Where are we spending that bottom line? I think the issue with his comment is that it's not that they're owing $20 million a year to somebody to keep this league alive. That's not it. When we look at profitability and that margin, right, you have to look at it a little bit differently. Like it's going somewhere, right? So do we have, 50 extra back office people that we don't need that we're paying salaries to? Where can you cut costs to put more in the pockets of the players that are doing the work every day? I think is the overarching thing. I'm not saying that, it's got to be 80% to the players and 20% to the league. I don't think anybody's saying that, even the players, but it's got to be more than 9%.
It does.
So I think, whether that pay structure changes or it's a true up at the end or what, I think that, and by the way, I think people get a little stuck on the numbers of it, like the salary of it. A lot of what's in the negotiations is simple things like benefits.
Yeah.
That,
maternity leave. I
know that has nothing to do with okay, I'm paying this out to you in cash, right? It's a lot of other components to how they're treated that they're fighting for. It's not just that bottom line number, right? But the benefits play into it, right? So if they get an increase in benefits and now that makes compensation 13% instead of 9%, it's not like the league's paying out 4% more in actual dollars, right? They're just providing 4% more in value and overall benefits. So I think there's a bunch of different things that are part of this, but I think everybody just gets stuck on what's actually cash wise going into these players' budget. And that's not all of it. That's not everything that they're asking for.
No, it's a small piece of it. I just think it's incredible that the players got together and put together the unrivaled league themselves. They got a TV deal. They got big time players to play. They got sponsors. They did this all on their own. and a salary structure that's better than the WNBA, that shows that it's at least possible. And maybe the WNBA isn't doing everything that it possibly can to have those revenue streams, because
Well,
I mean, they got a good TV deal. They got good merchandise. They got everything. And I know it's a different game, but for them to put it together like that in 1 year and to get sponsors that they've gotten, maybe that's where the WNBA is failing.
yeah, and I think if I had to look, and I haven't yet, maybe I'll experiment with this week in all my abundant free time. But I bet you if I looked at overhead and bottom line cost to Unrivaled, like what does it actually cost to run this league? If I had to guess,
it's probably a lot
dramatically lower than the WNBA, right? The arenas are smaller, all these different things. The rosters are smaller.
Right.
All those different things create way less overhead and expenses.
Yes. Right.
So if you can decrease expenses and increase revenue, right? You're in the best possible situation you could be in as a business owner.
And you know this because you are a business owner.
Yeah. So I think, there's always two levers you can pull, right? Decrease expenses or increase revenue. If you could do both, great. But I think what Unrivaled did was, I think they looked at it like a business, where the WNBA kind of looked at it to try to just replicate what the NBA does. And to me, that's always been what I felt was going to fail, because you're not the NBA yet, right?
No.
You may never be. So, and that's okay. I don't think you have to be, right? There's a ton of different sports where the women's side is just not as big of a following. It's not as big of a draw. It's not as big of a market for whatever reason. Maybe we'll get there in the future. Hopefully I'm alive to see it. I don't know. But I think what Unrivaled did was look at it from a business perspective. What do we need to get in sponsors and in TV deals, right? To pay XYZ expenses. After they did that, they said, okay, great. Now what do we need to do to make this lucrative enough to the players to get them to come play? And let's go out and get that.
Right.
So if I had to guess, they probably took care of expenses and salary with just the sponsors and the contracts that they got, which means the rest is just bottom line revenue, which is great, right? The WNBA is like completely flipped.
Yes.
Yes.
100%. It really is completely flipped. Yes.
But again, I think it's like you try to replicate. You can't jump in and replicate something that's been there for decades and expect to get the same results right away. And we've talked about this before. It took decades for the NBA to be profitable.
Oh, it wasn't until Bird and Magic came.
Yeah, I mean, so and everybody forgets that part, and it's just like anything else, right? Like, you ask somebody what their biggest asset is, 99 out of 100 people will say their house, right? Well, guess what? Yeah. You got to pay 30 years into your house until you really see all the equity out of it, right? So, everything takes time. I think people are getting a little impatient with what that looks like. But really, at the end of the day, what is really our biggest asset? Our biggest asset is our ability to work and bring in an income.
Exactly.
So, for these players, I think a lot of the gripe with them is like, again, if you're not listening to some of the stuff we're saying about officiating or the travel schedule or the accommodations, all of that stuff plays into their ability to work their job to the best of their ability. And when you do that, now you're taking away my ability to bring in an income. That's your biggest asset. So I think what Unrivaled did was really smart. And I think they were smart because they also played it on the tails of 3-on-3 basketball becoming really popular in the Olympics. So,
it's an Olympic sport, right?
Yeah. So I think, you're tying into that, which was just a really smart business model. I think, whoever like officially came up with it or presented it or whatever, did a really good job. And I think you're going to continue to see that league thrive, which is a good thing. But I think the WNBA they just have a lot to fix.
All right, I'll give you two more questions. The first one has to do with the Connecticut Sun. Allegedly they're trying to be sold. Do you see them being sold relatively soon? And they're valued at $250 million, which some economists say is on the low side. Do you think that they will be sold before next season? Or do you think that they'll end up playing another season in Connecticut?
The Connecticut one is an interesting one because, the WNBA did a lot of backhanded.
I just want you to know these are all men asking questions, which I think is hilarious.
The WNBA tried to do like a backhanded deal with the Sun to sell it to a different market. And Connecticut basically came in and said, like, no, we're not going to allow that. So there's a lot of stuff up at the Capitol and a lot of different things going on to try to keep that franchise in Connecticut. I don't think that it will be. Wow. I think by next season it probably won't be at Mohegan anymore. But I do know that Connecticut is trying to keep it in Connecticut. Let's be honest, like Connecticut is a basketball state, right? Yeah. It's a huge market. I mean, the second that Mohegan opened up a franchise, they have great attendance. They follow the UConn players for 4 years at UConn, and then they want to see them play in the WNBA. So I think it'll still be in Connecticut. Will it be at Mohegan? My guess would be no. But I think, again, that's just another error by the WNBA, kind of coming in backhandedly and trying to, sell it to a market without permission, like it's owned here.
Wow, so I didn't know that.
There's a lot of weird stuff going on with that. Some stuff that I've been privy to that I won't discuss here, but yeah, there's some shady dealings with that. I would like to see it stay in Connecticut, and people have talked about like Boston's a great market. Well, then open another franchise in Boston. It's far enough away. Yeah. Two totally different markets in terms of fans, right? It's not like, you look at between LA, Seattle, Phoenix, like you have a bunch in a small demographic out there.
Small area, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess not small area, but whatever. But I mean, look at the Lakers and the Clippers. I mean, you got two franchises that play at the same facility and it works, right? So,
right.
You got the Mets and the Yankees. So, it can be done. I just think it has to be done
maybe in Hartford or somewhere else.
Yeah, I do think, like, for me, like I very rarely go to Connecticut Sun games because it's really far from me. And it's a little bit of a hassle. And then you go there, you're in a casino. It's I think Hartford would be really central. Bridgeport has a nice arena as well. Yeah. I think there are different markets in Connecticut that I think would do a little bit better.
The last question is from Lauren, who just wants to know, are there WNBA players who still play overseas in the off season?
Yeah.
There are. Okay. All right. And then your prediction is, are the Aces going to win the finals?
The Aces are going to win the finals. I called it with the Dallas coach getting fired. I knew that guy was going to get canned. If they could have canned him in the middle of the season, I think they would. He was in way over his head. They got to, I wouldn't be surprised if they hire somebody like Sandy.
I thought Sandy, that's what that's the exact same thing. Yeah, I was thinking that too.
But it's another thing too, is like the WNBA is they're firing a lot of female coaches and they're bringing in people from the NBA, right, to coach. So, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that or what message that's portraying, because I do think there are a lot of really talented female head coaches out there that can do some great things. But it's interesting stuff. I think Las Vegas wins it. I'm going to say they win it in 5.
Yeah.
I think Phoenix steals 1 at home.
You think they steal 1 at home? Okay.
Yep.
And how's your daughter loving school, the new school and everything?
Yeah, she loves it. Yep.
Good. Okay. All right. Well, Maria, great job as always. Thank you. And
All right.
you're drawing a huge crowd. Just remember, when life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade. Take 2 oranges, throw them right back at life.